Hello and welcome to another History Fireside video. It's the new academic year and I just wanted to have a very quick chat about how to pick a research project for a dissertation. If you are a history student going into your final year at university, it's probably time to pick a dissertation topic. And this can feel really daunting, and it's probably one of the hardest things to do. After all, history is really vast. There's so many different things to choose from, so many different periods, different topics, different countries that you can look at. So how do you narrow all of that down? How do you pick a single topic to explore? And also, how do you make sure that the topic you pick is one that you can do really well in to get the best marks possible? Well, I thought I would share a few tips of my own as a former student and now as a lecturer about what you can do to pick a really good dissertation topic that you can take quite far. My first tip, my number one tip for picking a dissertation topic is to make sure you are picking a dissertation that you really are interested in. That is the most important part of picking a strong dissertation topic. This might seem a bit obvious, but many students actually try to pick a dissertation that they think will get them the best mark, and they don't necessarily realise that the key to getting a good mark at dissertation is to study something that you're really interested in. Dissertations are a massive project. You're talking around about 10,000 words depending on where you are studying. This might actually be the biggest piece of continuous writing that you ever do, and they take a long time to research and write. If you started to think about your dissertation at the end of your second year, you're going to spend a whole year looking at this one particular topic. If you start thinking about your dissertation in September in the UK, that means you're still probably spending 9 months researching, thinking and writing about a single history topic. And that means that at some point you are probably going to hate your dissertation. That is perfectly natural. Writing can be very stressful, research is very difficult. So sometimes you are going to feel frustrated with the writing process, frustrated with the dissertation. So you want to make sure that the topic you picked is something that you love, that you really are enthusiastic about going into. And if you make sure it's something that you're really passionate about, that frustration will fade a lot quicker. It's very hard to do research and writing about a topic that you're not really interested in. So make sure it's something that you are really interested in. If you are struggling to find an idea that you're really interested in or you're passionate about, try going over some of the modules that you liked in your first 2 years. Which ones did you enjoy more than others? Which ones really stand out to you as the best modules of your degree? And what was it about those modules that made them so exciting and interesting? And can you work out from there how to build a dissertation topic from it? Go back over your essays. Which essay question did you do best on? 9 times out of 10, your best essay mark is probably going to be the one that you enjoyed writing the most. And my second tip is to think very early on about what sources are available to you. It's worth thinking about this as quickly as possible. Sometimes you have an excellent idea, one that is utterly brilliant, but you might not be able to do it because the sources aren't quite available to you. Or maybe you don't have the right language skills to read them. You might be interested in Japanese history, for example, but if you don't know Japanese, then you need to consider if there are enough sources about that topic. Some topics are more widely covered in the English language than other topics. Some topics have more sources available in English than others do. And I say this as a terrible monoglot myself. I love German history, but I don't read German very well. And that always meant that there was a limit to what I could do because of the availability of English language sources. So I had to consider very carefully what sources were available to me. You also want to think about how far away these sources are. How practical is it for you to access them? A lot of archives are based in or around London. Are you going to be able to access those archives easily? That's especially true of 2020 than probably any other academic year. Are you going to be able to actually visit these archives and see the sources that you need? What is available online? What online archives are available? I always strongly suggest newspaper sources, not just because I'm a newspaper historian, but because they are available online. There's loads of really good databases online that contain newspapers. If you can't find any sources, can you make your own by interviewing people? Oral history is a brilliant field and it has lots of excellent possibilities. If you are interested in an event but you can't find primary sources that discuss it, oral history can help you by letting you produce your own primary sources. Many universities have entire courses or sessions that will teach you how to conduct oral history interviews and what you need to do in terms of getting ethical approval. Learning how to interview people is also a really good skill for the job market afterwards. My third tip is to think about who is in your department and who is in your university. Who are the experts? Who are available to talk to you about your ideas? Every lecturer has their own research expertise and interests, sometimes more than one. Look at who is in the department and how their research interest might align with yours. The closer your topic aligns with a lecturer's specialism, the more they will be able to help you, the more detailed their help will be. That doesn't mean that you can't pick a topic that is outside someone's specialism, but it does mean that you have to be aware that there are advantages and disadvantages. I am much more able to help someone who is doing the Second World War and the press, for example, than I am in any other aspect of British history. That's simply because it is my research specialism. So if you pick a topic that is slightly outside of a lecturer's specialism, then you just need to be prepared that they might not be able to help you as much as they could otherwise. You also want to think about how to make your topic truly original. For an undergraduate dissertation, I'm not suggesting in any way that you need to come up with a brand new thesis or an original topic. But if you are aiming for the highest mark, you want to make sure that you are bringing some originality to your dissertation, whether that's by looking at new sources on an old question or applying a new theory to an old question. What can you bring to your dissertation that's going to make it distinctly yours, distinctly your product? What is your take that you're going to bring to the table, and how is it going to be different from other sources in the past? If you do that, you will make it much more original, and that is the key in many ways to getting a good, strong dissertation mark. Tip number 5 is be very focused, be very specific. There's a danger in dissertations of trying to have too broad a topic. You think 10,000 words is massive. How are you ever going to cover 10,000 words? But actually 10,000 words will go very, very quickly, especially if it's a topic that you're interested in and you're passionate about. And there's a danger in dissertations of trying to cover too much too quickly. This is actually a trap that I fell into when I did mine a long time ago. For my undergraduate dissertation, I tried to compare the 1917 Russian revolutions with the 1918 German Revolution. That was something that I should have done over a whole career, not just in 10,000 words. It was way too big a topic for me to do any justice to it. But if you start with a very specific topic, a single focus, it is much easier to broaden out from that later. It's also very overwhelming sometimes if you have a very broad view. If you try to cover too much, you can end up having too many sources very quickly, and it can feel like you're drowning in the research. So it's much easier to broaden out your idea later than it is sometimes to drill down and focus. And finally, I would suggest be flexible. Whatever you do is going to change very quickly. The idea you first have back in September is probably going to be very different from what you submit in April or May or whenever it's due. So you want to be flexible. Research will change your ideas constantly. And writing a dissertation is that constant clash between your ideas and new ideas being thrown at you from research. So your idea is going to change constantly. Your dissertation is probably going to change. Sometimes you will have to get a lot broader than you thought you would. Sometimes the sources you think are available aren't available, so you have to change things quite quickly. Other times you might find that what you thought was a narrow topic ends up being a lot bigger than you thought it was, and you might have to focus a bit more than you thought you would. Occasionally the idea you had that seemed really doable at first might turn out to be simply not possible for an undergraduate dissertation, and you may be required to take a sidestep or start a new dissertation. That can happen sometimes, and these are all very natural things, and they happen very regularly in any type of research project. So be prepared to be flexible and respond to any advice that your supervisors have. That will help you a lot. So those are just some of my suggestions about picking a dissertation topic. There are loads of tutors and lecturers out there who will have different recommendations, different pieces of advice, but these are just my suggestions for starting out a dissertation. And I cannot really reiterate enough just how important that first tip is. Make sure you are doing something that you really are interested in. That will help you get the best marks. You will be more enthusiastic about the research you are doing. You will be more engaged with your writing. Your reader will literally be able to read your enthusiasm. They will be able to see your enthusiasm throughout your dissertation. The more enthusiasm you have, the more research you will probably do. Think about some of the books that you've read as an undergraduate yourself. Think about which ones really stand out. A book that you enjoyed reading, or one that you just found fascinating. And I almost guarantee that the book that sticks out most is the one where the writer had a clear interest and passion for their project. It's very hard for any researcher to feign that interest. And that interest really will, I believe, lend your dissertation an extra quality. It will help you underpin that dissertation with really strong research.